Hello, everybody, and welcome to Clearing the Bases, the podcast where we step up to the plate and dive deep into the world of youth baseball. I'm your host, Jimmy Filangieri. On this show, we discuss all things related to the preparation and development of youth baseball players, coaches, and yes, even parents. So sit back, settle in, and get ready to hear from some of the greatest baseball minds out there. So you've heard from the first group from the Youth Baseball Summit, and you gotta admit, there was a lot of good stuff there. I mean, Devin, Rob, Mike, Duke, they are some of the greatest baseball minds out there. So it really doesn't get any better than that. So I really hope you enjoyed it. So now we're going to move forward with the second episode with another panel from the Youth Baseball Summit, and I know you're going to enjoy this just as much. I mean, we jump into stuff about the mental well-being of young players. We jump into stuff about umpires, which I really like. I mean, it came up in conversation, so we just kind of ran with it. And, this is what happens at these summits. And there was really a lot of good stuff in there. I mean, you know how I feel about umpires. We need umpires. It's crazy to beat up and belittle and berate these guys when they're part of what we do. They're part of the process. It just doesn't make sense. I mean, everybody makes mistakes. Coaches make mistakes. Players make mistakes. Yes, umpires make mistakes. I know they do. But they're human. And if you really think about it, what is at stake by him making a bad call? You're going to lose a game that doesn't mean anything anyway? I mean, is it going to hurt your chances of getting your little plastic ring or your little plastic trophy so you could go to work on Monday and, go by the water cooler and tell everybody, what a great weekend you had because you've won so many games? It's just crazy. It just, to me, doesn't make sense why we would beat up umpires when we need them. We want more umpires. We don't want people shying away from it. We want people running to it. And it's one of the things that we do need to change. So I'm glad we spoke about it. I think you're going to enjoy the conversation. And look, sit back, relax. And before we get into the show, like we usually do, let's hear from the 6-Tool app.
For baseball coaches like you, every game brings measurable progress. However, game time isn't the time for trial and error learning. Instead, have a proactive approach. Use 6-Tool, the best baseball player development tool on the market. We provide a platform to level up your coaching strategy by helping you to quickly identify and address your players' knowledge of the game. By using our easy-to-implement interactive player quizzes, you can assess position-specific issues, overall baseball IQ, and much more. Win more games and develop better overall baseball players with effective off-the-field training. Visit us at 6-tool.com. 6-Tool. Get ahead in the game.
Well, I want to welcome everyone back to Clearing the Bases, and this episode marks part 2 of our 3-part series focused on the 2025 ABCA Youth Baseball Summit that we had this past November in Austin, Texas. Throughout this series, we're unpacking the key conversations, the challenges and solutions impacting youth baseball today. In this episode, we're joined by 4 highly respected and forward-thinking leaders in the game who were instrumental in shaping the Youth Baseball Summit as it concluded its 4th edition. The goal here is to gather insights and perspectives that can help clarify the mission of the Youth Baseball Summit and explain why these respected leaders are part of a collaborative think tank dedicated to advancing youth baseball in meaningful and innovative ways. So I'm going to give you a little bit about them, and then we're going to bring them in and we'll hit the ground running. So first up, we got Kevin Coe of the Reds Youth Academy. Kevin is a leader at the Reds Youth Academy, an organization dedicated to providing youth with opportunities for growth through baseball, education, and mentorship. Through his work, Kevin helps create structured environments that emphasize skill development, academic support, and character building. He's deeply committed to using baseball as a tool to positively impact young athletes and their communities, making him a powerful advocate for inclusive and sustainable youth baseball initiatives. So next up, we have Mark Wright, head coach at Freedom High School and the general manager at Stars Baseball. Mark has extensive experience across multiple levels of amateur baseball. Mark is known for building strong team cultures and developing fundamentally sound players. He is a firm believer in preparation, consistency, and character as the foundation for athletic success. And Mark's insight into the player pathway from youth baseball through high school makes him a respected voice in conversations about development and coaching standards. Next up is Blake Hibler. Blake is a leader with bullpen tournaments where he plays a key role in organizing and operating high-level youth baseball events. Through his work, Blake has developed a deep understanding of the youth baseball landscape, from competitive structures and tournament formats to the demands placed on players, coaches, and families. He is passionate about creating environments that prioritize development, sportsmanship, and a positive experience for young athletes while still providing meaningful competition. And rounding everything out, and everybody out there in Clearing the Bases has heard from Tracy before, but we have Tracy Tanguay, the mobility chick. Widely recognized as the mobility chick, is a movement specialist and educator focused on improving mobility, recovery, and overall athlete wellness. She works with athletes, coaches, and organizations to implement practical strategies that enhance performance while reducing injury risk. Tracy is passionate about empowering young athletes with better movement habits and helping coaches understand how mobility and recovery fit into long-term athletic development. Welcome to the show, everyone.
Thanks for having us, Jimmy.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I look forward to it.
Yeah, this is great. I mean, I think that anytime we get a chance to let people see, like get a look inside what we actually do at this summit, I think it's important to, put it out there and let people hear from you guys so they understand what it's about, number one, and number two, why people like yourselves are involved in it. So let's jump into it. You know what? I'm going to go from the top down the way it's on my screen. So I want to ask everybody, let's just give us your idea of what was your biggest takeaway from the Youth Baseball Summit this past November. Kevin, you go first.
My biggest takeaway was just kind of being in a room and trying to dive into the ideas that we're struggling with within the youth baseball community, and having so many intelligent people that love baseball the same way that I do, try to solve those problems. The ideas that we threw, I think they call it throw against the dartboard or spitballed against the wall. I think it was very powerful for me. I brought back to Cincinnati tons of ideas that I've already shared with a lot of my colleagues, and we're going to implement here in the city of Cincinnati. So it was very powerful for me.
Okay, Mark.
Yeah. So for me, going into it, I thought it was going to be primarily on pitch count, and I was intrigued on the whole pitch count topic. And what I liked a lot about it is it certainly hit on that, but then it got just more on the overall player safety, how to still, increase the overall experience, but while developing kids, which is really, like for us at Stars Baseball, there's a happy medium. We're always trying to figure out how to increase the overall experience for our own niche group, while at the same time trying to develop them. So, being around that eclectic group in that room, and, my takeaway, as I tell people, is, there's an epidemic in Major League Baseball with arm injuries, obviously. Every dope knows that. But if you really think what that room was chartered with, that room is basically going to, look into how to fix Major League Baseball's problem. We're going to get at it, right? We're all challenged right here imminently to dig into it at the youth level. But the thought of that residual impact, if we're successful as a group and we make all these changes, some of the impasses we're at as far as number of tournaments or pitch counts, if that is all enacted, I'm a firm believer, and I don't know if it'll be, 7 years or not, but that impact's gonna be so powerful for Major League Baseball, let alone all the respective communities we're in. So I came out of there very positive thinking and very hopeful that an eclectic group like that can just absolutely dominate this topic.
So, Tracy, we know that you had to leave a little early, but you could still give us a good idea of what takes place there because you've been there before. So give us, your take on what we're trying to do there.
Yeah, one of the things, I mean, I'm one of the only women there. Bonnie was also there, but then also as a mom coming in with a different perspective, who also has kids, who also was married to a pro baseball player, who also works directly in pro baseball. So I have the full gamut of, I'm in all of the things. And so the perspective that I have and what we're doing our best to do here in the summit and the program in general is really like how can we help the kids stay healthy, but then also give some perspective and just reassurance to parents that it's not all just chaos and there are people looking out for your kids, but really is when I was talking to Billy Wagner about it, it's like, hey, if you could change anything in youth sports, what would it be? And one of the things that he said was, hey, it doesn't matter if you go to a D1 school. Like, go where you're going to play. Go where you're going to be able to develop. Go where people care about you. Like the D1 title isn't really as big of a deal as people think. And just develop yourself. And me as a mother, and something that I've talked about with almost everybody, and I spoke about it last year, is you don't have to keep up with the Joneses. So listen to your mom and your dad intuition. Like if something doesn't feel right and you're like, I don't need my kid to do this travel tournament and this one and this one and this one. We're missing out on family time. Or my kid is just kind of getting like worn out emotionally, not feeling it. Like listen to your gut. So as the mom there, it would be like my kids, they don't play travel sports. Like the people who sponsor this podcast is my ex-husband with Six Tool. So it's like we're in baseball, like we are in it, and our kids do not play travel ball because we're able to kind of like find the way to develop on our own. So just like don't feel the pressure, but know that when you are in it, that there are people like us working to protect your kids and find a way to make it feasible and reasonable to have fun, to play, stay healthy, and if you want and you're good enough to get to the next level. So that would be my takeaway and what we're all trying to do.
Okay, Blake, you're up.
Yeah, I always get nervous when I show up at this thing, to be perfectly honest, because I know it's about pitch count. And Taylor was perfect game, and I joke around quite a bit about, a lot of people want to blame the tournament and the game counts and everything else. So for us, it's a little bit guarded when we show up, to be candid. So being this is the first time I'd actually attended the summit. And I'd always attended the ABCA, but I wasn't able to make the summit. So I was a little nervous about what was going to be said and done and how it was going to be treated. And for the first time, or not the first time, this group is the only group that I've been a part of that's able to have a real conversation and actually listen to, the other side of it. I've coached I've coached travel baseball, I've coached at a higher level, I've coached high school, done all of it on the coaching side. So I get it from a coach perspective as well. So it's just kind of nice to be able to have, I think, genuine conversations that will help move the game forward and not strictly a very one-sided, narrow view of why we have so many injuries. So the group is, and then for me personally, just hearing the game from so many different perspectives, I get to hear it from my perspective. I live in my world. Just like all of us, when we leave that thing, we kind of go back and you want to implement some of the ideas that you heard, but you're ultimately going back into your space where you're a leader. So being surrounded by people that bring so much to the game from so many different perspectives, I think is huge. And I think the fact that we do have a group that's willing to have conversation and great dialogue and respectful dialogue, it allows us to attempt to make it the next step. And we all know that we have a role in it, whether it's from the development side to the game side to the, how do we work together with the high school coach and the youth coach, all those things kind of come into play. So for me, I think that was my biggest takeaway. I can't wait to continue to kind of move forward and hopefully helps be a solution to the problem and not just continue to, talk around it. So I think it's a great group. Thank you.
Well, what I like about that is on the first show, we talked about that very issue, what you just said about how, it could be contentious between tournament directors and travel ball organizations, that it could be very contentious. But, they felt that the same thing you said, Blake, is that everybody wants to work together instead of point fingers. We want to say, okay, what can you bring? What can you do? And everybody kind of puts it together. And, in the 3 years that I've been there, it's, you could see it starting to take shape because of what you said, that, everybody's there not to argue with each other. We're all there, we know the problems. We're all trying to solve them. So what I would say is, and again, we'll go through this, actually, we'll go through backwards this time. So we'll go Blake, Tracy, Mark, and then Kevin. From like where you sit in youth baseball right now, what do you guys think is the most urgent thing? And you kind of touched on a little bit, Mark, but you're going to have to find something else or go into that again.
From my perspective, I think the most urgent, it's a balance of creating baseball fans and doing it in a safe environment. The number one challenge that we're faced with is we want to be part of the solution, but yet you have people that, parents that aren't educated, coaches that aren't educated. Sometimes that's the same person. We're fighting to figure out how do we our customer tells us what they want to do sometimes. And so until we can educate that customer, and I think we all have a role in this, but my fear is, you cannot change the game too much to lose potential baseball fans in the hope to keep everybody safe. You can't govern it too much because ultimately you'll drive people away from baseball. So how do we continue to increase baseball fans and at the same time keep them safe in that space? And that's what we talk about. I think our role in this as tournament directors is we actually have a voice for the ones that are uneducated, because I think that's more our customer than a lot of folks on this call. I think everybody else is, ultimately playing a role in the higher end kid, and we're trying to make that 9-year-old work too. So for us, I think, sorry, I got super long winded on it, but to just summarize, for us, it's just figuring out how to create baseball fans, keep the game more fun, and also keep the kids safe at the same time.
You're up, Tracy.
I mean, I'm in movement and there's lots of injuries. So if I were to put it together, is really focusing on not the mechanical drills, not all the tweaks, not all the specialized coaches for pitching and hitting and running and all the things. Just like teach the kids the fundamentals of like the actual fundamentals, not like how to do a squat, how to do a lunge, but how to move properly. When a kid is moving properly, they come out of the womb like with perfect form. Honestly, like kids are planking and half kneeling and lunging, absolutely perfect. But then what happens? They're on their phones, they're on computers, and their form goes to crap. Then they may or may not have crappy form in sports that are enhanced. And so if we could kind of start the kids young with the proper movement, and it's not that hard, it's really not that hard to do. I do it with my own kids. Then it starts to build. We start out with the really basic stuff, really basic cues, and then as they grow, we add to it, we progress, we make it a little bit more advanced. So by the time they get to high school and college, they're not moving like shit like they are now. Most of the clients that I see, I work with pro guys, majority are with pro guys, and they, for the most part, are moving fairly well. Like I obviously clean that up. But then when I get to the high school, college are usually like worse, but not as bad. High school kids have absolutely been absolute, excuse my language, jack shit form and movement. It's insane. Like we have to undo so much crap of just their movement patterns. So for me, if we could, something is happening from when they're like 8 or like 6, 7, and 8 to whatever happens to them in high school. If we could, and that's basically the range of kids that most people listening are working with. If we could focus on just cleaning up the movement, helping them out there, that would absolutely take care of so many issues. And this is something that I am just starting to share publicly, is if the underlying nervous system is out of whack and in a state of fight or flight, I don't care how many times you tweak mechanics on pitching and hitting or anything else, it is not going to stick because your nervous system is in fight or flight. It's basically constantly saying danger. And if they have poor movement patterns in what I say inefficient structural alignment, it's like shitty posture, that contributes to there's underlying biomechanical stuff underneath, like if your diaphragm is in a state of contraction, it sends messages to your vagus nerve, dropping big words, but it stimulates danger. So if we can help get those kids feeling safe in their bodies through efficient, healthy, proper movement at a young age, a lot of the issues that they're having as they grow aren't going to be issues because they're able to do them naturally and flow. So that would be my absolutely number one thing.
Okay, Mark.
So I think education as a whole is the number one problem, and it sort of can hit on everything. Tracy digresses, is super smart, obviously wicked smart, and all the mobility stuff, and just that. If you think about when is mobility important, and parents not even knowing that it's even needs to be important in itself. You go into the pitch count topic that we're all trying to solve. I mean, by the way, I'm all for pitch counts, but if you really want to break it down, I mean, how do you ever control what some kids, Blake could have a pitch count for his tournament weekend, but the parent really needs to be more concerned about with how much are you throwing midweek? How many pitches did you throw during your bullpen? Do you have any recovery? Did you throw midweek before Blake's turn? There's so much that goes into it that I think there has to be sort of a benchmark somewhere to start from. So I like the pitch count concept. But if you back that all up, you just really have to educate the parent. Like I said, if they're older, high school, even middle school, how to be a good mover, certainly important. But the pitch count, as you start peeling back the onion, there's a lot to it. And I think it's just a group like us that can make it easy, digestible, chat GPT-ish, for the parent, and want to read and understand why you should track your son's, throwing through the week, that all the build up to the tournament, everyone seized on that Saturday, Sunday. That's the one thing that fascinates me whenever I'm there and they're looking, they're checking people's pitch counts, and you see the crazy psycho parents and coaches trying to get somebody, which is important. Everyone should be a level playing field. But in my warped head, I just think about, wonder what that kid did on Thursday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Monday. It's important now. But it's only important for them. They're myopic because they're trying to win a game. That's the only reason that's the only reason the opposing team cares and they're looking at game changer. I like it more like the 6-day prelude, hey, he has thrown a lot, but what was that workload, pre-week? And I bet nobody, that 12U parent has no clue, or 14, whatever there is. They don't even have a clue that they only are fixated on the number. And they'll go to happy hour and be like, they definitely stopped him. They stopped him right at 84. This is BS. And it's I think you're arguing about the wrong thing there, buddy. So I think education as a whole.
Okay, Kev.
It's more of a three-pronged fork for me, and it starts with coaching, coaching at the lower levels. I know Blake and Taylor, they do perfect game and PBR and bullpen, but it starts, everybody that plays baseball started at recreational baseball, and so making sure that we have coaches and we provide resources for coaches that may not have ever played baseball before. A parent that's never played baseball before, never played softball before, never had to handle a kid or a group of kids before. And so just making sure we provide resources to coaches so that kids have a good time. And when kids have a good time, their parents sign them up for baseball the following year. But if it's not a good experience and the league has terrible rules, then we're going to lose that fan. We're going to lose that player and that fan. And so we want to make sure that we keep kids engaged. And it all starts with coaching. Everybody on this panel has a coach that has impacted their lives. And we have to make sure we do a good job of training coaches so that they are impactful to the participants in our sport. That piggybacks into when we have these leagues, I can go to a tournament and umpiring. Umpiring is sometimes it's hit or miss, and At our academy, we do have an umpiring training each year, sometimes twice a year, just to kind of teach the youth on how to umpire. And so the good ones will stay in it, and those that can't handle it, obviously they go find something else to do. But having to deal with the parents, the crazy parents these days, if you're a good umpire, you don't have to deal with crazy parents because they don't get involved in the game. And so as long as you're consistent is what I've always say. But making sure we're training kids and adults to be strong umpires. Because if we're paying these thousands of dollars to get into these tournaments or hundreds of dollars to play in these leagues, again, it's part of the experience. And so if umpires aren't very good, then the players and parents won't have a good experience. And the third thing for me is the kid. We talk about education, parent and player education, but let's talk about mental health and wellness of these kids. And so I've been coaching for a very long time, and I can tell you 5 years ago, working with kids is like almost like a 180-degree turn, just kind of done. I walked out to a mound just this past summer because the kid was struggling in a game, and I walked out to the mound and was like, we're having a conversation. He starts crying because he has to compete at a high level, and the kid's a senior in high school. He starts crying because he's competing at a high level. He's not having the success that he wants. And he knows he's going to have to go back and deal with not only his teammates, he's got to deal with the opponents who are chirping in the other dugout. And then he's got to deal with social media as well, because if some of this may show up on social media. And so it's much harder to be a teenager these days than it is than when we were, because social media didn't exist. And it's impacted the mental health and wellness of a lot of our kids. And believe it or not, what I've learned is some of the kids, the better kids, probably struggle with it a lot more than the kids that aren't as strong of a player, because they have the expectation of always being great and always saving the team. And if they don't do it, they take that home with them. And we just have to pay more attention to our coaches, our umpires, and our players as a whole.
Mind if I jump in,
No,
Blake
go
or
ahead.
Kevin? Hopefully it was a yes. Kevin, I love that you touched on the mental health aspect. One thing that I think a lot of us forget is these kids also were the COVID kids that had to go to school and be so isolated with masks on. And like it really, really messed with kids. People think, oh, like that was in the past, we're fine. But now we're getting to the point where like some of the stuff that they went through back then is even more so showing up now. So yes, the social media, and yes, the pressures and all of that, I totally agree with. And it's so hard. But then also like this kind of like non-talked about elephant in the room, that these kids went through this really traumatic thing. Like some of those kids missed their sports for an entire season, and it just takes a lot. So I really appreciate that you brought up the mental health aspect, because it's really, really important.
One of the things that you brought up, Kevin, that I want to kind of touch on is, what you said about the umpires, because I think that that's something that needs to be addressed because it's becoming a real problem. And I want to get everybody's opinion because everybody is involved with umpires, at certain levels and certain situations. I really believe that a lot of what happens with umpires is the responsibility of the coach. And I'll use myself as an example because I'll tell you right now, parent, player, anybody that gets out of line with an umpire, they got to deal with me. And they're not going to like it, okay, regardless of what the umpire did, okay? So let's talk about that a little bit. Kevin, expand on it a little bit. You started it, so.
Well, kind of piggybacking what you said, like one, I see, there was a couple summers ago where bullpen was looking for umpires to coach tournaments in a weekend because of the shortage. The shortage comes from, like you say, coaches control parents. There are a lot of daddy ball coaches that started their own teams that barely have control of the kids on their roster, let alone the parents sitting in the stands. And so it impacts. Like I'll be honest with you, I feel like I've always had a strong hold of not only my coaches and my parents, but also just as the whole organization. We very rarely but you watch and you see the teams that you're playing against, and there's some chirping that comes from the other dugout, and it's disrespectful. And I never let our kids say anything to the other team. You can chant, you can talk all you want, as long as it doesn't you ain't addressing the other pitcher. You're not talking about the other batter. You're not talking about the other coach. You're not talking about the other the umpire. And if you don't have anything good to say, then don't say it at all. But there's plenty of organizations or just teams alone, like they may not even be organization related, that they just don't have the opportunity to control, or the ability to control the parents. And so, like, I've seen a beer get thrown in an umpire's face just because of a bad call. And umpires are humans, and they're gonna make mistakes. And my brother's been umpiring for 20 years, and he ain't the best umpire in the world either. So, but as long as you're consistent. But I think the training that goes into it, and the people wanting to get trained to learn the game. Obviously, the better umpires are probably players that played baseball and softball, but there's a lot of umpires out there that don't know the sport, and they're doing it just to make a couple extra dollars. A lot of times it's untaxed dollars, and so they wind up just umping. And it's sometimes, if you get into the wrong tournament or you're in the wrong place, you can get a lot of bad umpiring, and it definitely impacts the game.
So, Mark, tell us what you're seeing at the high school level.
Yeah, so this is good. So, Jimmy, I got the same shtick I give to my high school parents at the beginning of the season that I'll also get to our coaches at our coaches clinic with stars, and anytime in front of the parents or our regional directors. And I tell them, like, hey, when you start off the season, an umpire crew is going to be at our game, and right away they're thinking, for training. And I tell them, and anytime we miss a cutoff, they're going to they're going to just start booing and rallying. And so don't get mad that they're bitching at your son. And when you short hop the ball across the infield, they're going to be bitching and like yelling at your son and chirping. Just pipe down and let them chirp at them. And when we botch the double play turn, they're going to be hammering us. And they all sort of just look, and it's a weird, awkward 30, 40 seconds. And it's all my prelude to be like, you're not going to see me yelling at the umpires, because in general, us as a coaching staff will mess up and we're not prepared. So the team, early breaks on us. Your son makes a mistake, can't throw the ball across the freaking infield, has nothing to do with the umpire. You couldn't hit the cutoff, nothing to do with the umpire. You botched double play because you don't have good hands, not the umpire. There's a dozen things we do wrong. And thank God, most people, except the other dummies in the dugout, opposing team, are the only ones chirping at us. Don't chirp at the umpires because they missed, 3 or 4 calls. Like, you're the most uneducated person. You're going to embarrass me as a coach if you don't realize that they missed calls. There's actually stat tracking on it now. Like, you could go in pro baseball and look specifically. So now you don't have to be, I don't care where your degree comes from. You can just sort of extrapolate and assume maybe the college umpires aren't as good as pro. And then it's probably not a big leap of faith. Bear with me on this, parents. After college, it goes down to high school. Those umpires, by the way, they're only at high school because they just finished doing JV. And then they were probably there's a hierarchy.
Yeah.
There's a hierarchy. So you really just look nothing. And I literally I pick, depending on like how I feel that day, I'll just say stupid, dumb, ignorant. But when you bark because they miss calls, and I said, I don't know what the right number is. Like, I don't know if it's the 11th call they miss or the 7th. I don't know. Like, I shouldn't even say it, but then maybe you can like start chirping, but start tracking how often your son's buddies, me waving guys the wrong guy, like how many mistakes we make before you start bitching over like the inches of a strike zone. I was like, it's the most illogical thing. And that's why, honestly, I have not been on a field that much, bitching at umpires. And when I do it out of respect for them, it's usually between innings. I'm usually a little passive aggressive, telling me, hey, you owe me a call. I'm pretty sure you missed that. And it's remarkable, by the way, how many umpires between an inning will tell you, yeah, I'm sorry. Hey, Mark, I think I got that wrong. I punched him up, I'm sorry, man. And it goes a long way. I think some people think they'll call it, I have like the Saban effect, because then we start getting a lot of calls. And yeah, when umpires show up at our high school, also I get my buddies stir the pot with me, because our umpires show up, we give them gift bags. I give them protein bars, water. Everyone's, oh, you're trying to, you're trying to win them over. I'm like, yeah, that's why we're winning. Yeah, because I gave them a freaking protein bar. So I was like, shut up, throw one over like across the field to them. Like, play your cards right, I'll give you a blow pop too. Like, so yeah, bottom line is, I think people sound really ignorant. So, and that's why, like I said, I open up at high school, and then we open up each season telling our coaches, have a little bit of perspective, especially our coaches, for bitching at them, because the coaches are the ones that we're big on development. So for us, we're thinking like, how are you going on the field and bitching about that when, again, your team's not doing X, Y, Z, whatever it is. And right, depends on the age group, but there's plenty of teams that, we rather see, making some more big developmental strides instead of getting hung up on, bang, bang play at second.
Mark, that is one of the healthiest outlooks I've heard from a coach, and how you approach the parents and the teams. Because I think that gives just such a healthy and real perspective on, like, hey, these people are humans too. Like, they are doing their freaking best. And there's at the major league level that, like, even just for me as a parent, that just it gives, I feel like as a human being, it allows us to give another human being grace that mistakes happen. And yes, it's their job, but like, dude, they just came from JV and now they're to varsity or whatever, and starting in little league travel, whatever it is. And I also appreciate that like, even if it's passive aggressively, mention something to the umpires, because they're doing their job. Like, we make mistakes, and we know I haven't been an umpire, but I can't imagine the stress you're under, knowing that you're going to step into a game that you have to be on, and if you don't, everybody's coming at you, and like, could be dangerous. Like, there's dads who get aggressive. So that is, if any, well, for everybody listening to the podcast, like, if share this part of the podcast wherever we are time wise, to just share it with your coaches and your parents as well, to allow humans to have grace for another person. And I think that'll help a lot, just like chill everybody out. I really appreciate that perspective, Mark.
Well, Blake, you have a different angle to this, so because this can cause you tremendous problems. So I'd love to hear what you have to say.
I can't remember who said, if you don't have anything nice to say, just don't say anything at all. So sometimes I want to plead the fifth here. I think everybody should join our calls with umpires and our training and everything else, because it's a two-way street. The umpires know I'll stick up for them more than any person. They're a part of our business. They impact our business more than anybody. If you saw our complaints, the number one complaint is umpires and hotel state of play. Those are the two biggest complaints in our world, really. I mean, that's what everybody just dislikes the most. And so you're trying to fix things you don't necessarily have full control over. The state of play could be somebody didn't research well enough, or we put you in a bad property, or something happened. But it's usually something out of the control of us, and then the umpire is the most impactful and the most visual and causes the most headache from a risk perspective for us. That people don't realize, it's 2 on 40 out there.
That's crazy.
Like, when you actually like break down the numbers, like if there was going to be a fight, it would be our staff, which is probably one to 2 people in a quad maybe, and 2 umpires going against both parent sets. Because generally what happens is, it's not one coach that's picking on the umpire. It's actually both coaches, or both fan sets, or both player sets. And we get to watch it from the outside, like at 9-year-old baseball. Like, the whole reason we're all in this, we all talk about like youth coaches. I'm sorry, I'm gonna get a little more passionate about this, but 9-year-old, why are you coaching 9-year-old baseball? You want to be a leader. You want to set these kids up to be better in life. You want to make them better humans. And then you go out there and you literally lead by example and show them exactly how not to act. And you justify it because of a bad call. And all you do, if you get to watch the game, and I would challenge anybody to go watch 5 games, just sit in a quad for 5 time slots. That's 10 hours. It's a long time. And watch how the kids react with their parents. So if you find the good team and find the worst team and watch them both, because it'll add so much to your perspective on how you impact your son or daughter's life. The team that's yelling at the umpire, the kid will constantly throw his hands up and look back at the umpire. The team that doesn't say a word about the strike call, the kid doesn't turn around and look. The kid is not the problem. They just follow their coach and their parents' behaviors, and they jump this umpire. And then the best part about umpiring is we'll have a college umpire that will be doing a youth game as part of our development. And our college umpire will be the one that gets reviewed the worst. because this strike zone's too tight for a 10-year-old baseball game. So now I've got the college umpire that's getting reviewed as a horrible umpire because he's too tight. And I got the kid that he's trying to train getting judged because he's too inconsistent. So our parents and our coaching, like we go back to education, like, and to be very clear, this has been a part of the game. I mean, Billy Wagner used to, I'm sure we can find some videos on Billy arguing over balls and strikes. I'm sure we can find somebody that has argued balls and strikes in 1950, 1940. The only difference is we have video available at all times. So now every time that umpire makes a bad call in a 9-year-old game, it gets posted in a 30-second clip with no perspective, the score was 17-0. And he was trying to help the team get off the field. The kid's crying on the mound, and he's just literally trying to help this kid get the last out. It's his first time pitching, and we're posting a video about a guy that's calling strike 3 in the other batter's box, and it's on the kid, and it's always the kid's parent that posts the video, and then they post in these umpire groups and Facebook, and you look at it, it's like, what do you guys think? Is this a strike, or is this guy really out? Like, guys, we don't have instant replay. We don't have the ability to go back and review. We don't have TrackMan on 9-year-old fields, and we're doing robo umpire assist. These things don't exist today. We're all striving to make that experience better. So back to, what Mark does, I think that's awesome. I think it's probably one of the better ideas I've heard of how to educate parents. But I think our coaches have to realize if we take away the umpire, we take away everything that's there and just say, hey, you are setting an example for your son or daughter. That's it. And what do you want them to be in 5 years? How do you want them to handle adversity? And then they get to 16, and every single parent, like, if you sit and talk with them, hey, how'd you act when your son was 9? They're embarrassed and they regret it. So maybe we should start videoing the parents instead of the umpire, and we should post the parent video. I don't know. That would make my life way easier. I'd have 0 customers, but maybe that's a good way to look at it. Because these umpires, I promise you, the reason they're there, and I'm so tired of hearing they get paid to do a job. I've never met anybody that doesn't get paid to do their job. Nobody is a volunteer. They are there not for the money. 99% of them are there because this is their way to either stay involved in the game or give back. And they truly feel that, and they're as passionate, if not more passionate, about the game of baseball than coaches. They feel so much part of this game, and they deserve way more respect than what they actually get, and that's at every level. And I'm part of the problem. I've coached, I've been thrown out, I've yelled at umpires, so I've had to look myself in the mirror. And so anybody that hears this and knows me, yes, I'm talking about myself too. I've had to look myself in the mirror multiple times and be embarrassed.
Well,
the pro umpire you talked about is so funny because there's a couple of occasions I've been at tournaments and I either knew the umpire or somebody like told me, whether it was a tournament director, is like, hey, on field 4, we've got the guys from the ACC or Major League Baseball, and it's like a 14U game. And over the last decade, like I said, I hadn't happened a bunch, but there's a handful of times I either had another coach or a parent that'd be like, what do you think about these umpires? And and when they say it, I'm like, the guy who did the College World Series. That guy? I don't know. I mean, it seems fine. Why? And they lock up. They're like, yeah, I just thought the strike zone's a little small. And they get like, it's sort of like, dude, who are you? Oh my God. Like, that's crazy. You're asking me a loaded question, I think, but maybe you don't know who that is.
Kevin's been to this tournament. We do a tournament at Grand Park, and we always run a college-led camp. And it's actually it's really cool. It's a 17-year-old tournament, and every major assigner is at the event. We have more ejections that weekend than any other weekend. And we run 3 umpires on the field. And these are all guys that have worked college baseball that are trying to graduate to a higher comp. Like, they're literally there for showcasing. And I can't tell you the number of times, we're not here for you, Blue. It's not all about you. And you've got 3 College World Series umpires sitting behind home plate. And they just started, they have asked my permission to just educate people at this point. Like, our staff, like, can I just educate this parent? I'm like, yeah, I don't care. They're 17. At some point. Yes. Just tell them how dumb they are. But
that's fun. That's a funny one. We're here for you, Blue, because that's what I always think too. You start thinking about it, like, do you think those umpires are like, can't wait to get to the game today because it's about me. Let's go. Like the fact that people literally are like, yeah, it's all about you. That guy's just trying to he's looked at the clock. He's going to do his 4 games and
Yep.
about him, like any of us, he's probably going to go hang out with his buddy, maybe go hang out with his wife, his girlfriend. Like,
Yep.
I mean, it's
There are bad umpires, there's bad coaches, there's bad players. Sometimes you're going to get one of those three combo. You just hope that all three aren't on the same field because it's going to be a really bad day.
yeah, it's first of all, anybody for the most part that's involved in amateur sports, and that's from, high school down and, even some college. I don't think that I don't do it for the money. And umpires are the same way. I don't think they do it for the money. I think we all do this for the love of the game. So, I think if people understood that, but again, I feel that a lot of that responsibility, like I said before, falls on the coaches. You have a good coach that understands it, then you educate your parents, period. It's very easy to do. But I think a lot of times there are coaches that are on the parent side of that issue, where the coaches are the ones that are going to start with the umpire. And I can say, as long as I've been coaching 25 years, whatever it is, I'm very proud of the fact I've never been thrown out of a baseball game. There's no reason for it. I don't think. I mean, unless I can't even think of a situation. Maybe if I was playing for a state title and the umpire blew, an important call, I might get upset. But other than that, I can't find a reason to really get upset at them. But
I got threw out one time, and that umpire apologized to me. He was like, "My fault. Like, I shouldn't have thrown you out for it." So I felt good about that. But I do have one blemish on my record.
You're coming to Grand Park this year. I think we could get that to 2.
Oh God! So let's jump into something that happened at the University of Texas baseball field. Tracy, when you were there, you led us through some mobility exercises. Let's talk a little bit about that, because again, I want to kind of give everybody out there an idea that we cover a variety of things at this summit.
Yeah, there's just a couple drills that parents can do with their coaches can do with their kids, players can do that just help to set their body up into that structurally efficient position. So I brought all the coaches out in the field and showed them, hey, here's this side plank. And if you go to my website or to my Instagram, you can go get this warm up for free, or just it's lit. Some of the drills are listed on my Instagram, so you can find it. So what I do with coaches is show them, hey, once your body's in a structurally aligned position, your nervous system feels safe. So then it sends messages to your brain and body that says, hey, we can automatically just naturally give you more range of motion because the body feels safe. So there's this side plank series that you can find on my Instagram or in my warm up, where I have everybody test for this one is internal rotation, their shoulder internal rotation. And everybody starts and they're like, okay, this is where my IR is. And then they do this side plank drill where we work with positioning the rib cage in a certain way and breathing into our back ribs. And then 30 seconds later, we test range of motion, and everybody gains 10 to 15 degrees of range of motion. So it's not about cranking on these muscles and trying to get our bodies to do things that, like if a muscle is tight, there's a reason for it. Our body is protecting us. So if we could take that and say, all right, how can we make it safe? There's particular drills that can be done that, like I said, naturally open up the range. And when the range is opened and the nervous system feels safe, that's when kids are performing in their flow state and they're picking up things easily. So at University of Texas, the coaches were on the ground. We were doing the drills, and the two drills that I'm going to say three. The first one is the side plank shoulder series. It not only works with opening up range with nervous system safety, but it's also an unbelievable, the best one, in my opinion, the best shoulder stabilization exercise anybody could do. And coaches should be doing this too, honestly. I think one of the things that I'm seeing is coaches are like letting their players go off and do their warm up of their own, and the kids are leading the warm up. But if the coaches are integrated into that as well, it not only shows them that it's just like this part is important, but the coaches who are constantly throwing bullpens all day and are throwing batting practice, is what I meant to say, is they're throwing batting practice, like their bodies are getting worn out too. So join the kids with their warm up. The side plank series. The second one is I call standing pops. You stand on one leg, you bring your knee in front of your hip, your opposite elbow up. You breathe as you press both your elbow and your knee forward in front of you. And then you switch that a couple times. Again, standing pops, you Google it, you'll find it. What that does is it helps to open up this reciprocal motion. For rotational athletes, it creates more expansion along the rib cage. So then all of the thoracic mobility, the pitching, all overhead athletes, it just creates fluidity and openness and safety. So you can't really overdo it because you're now moving naturally. And then the last one is just a hip series. And I call it hip switches with a reach. So you've probably seen people online where their legs are in a 90-90 kind of a pinwheel position. And then you rotate from side to side, and then you breathe as you inhale and reach. And what that does is not only opens up hip mobility, but it also opens up that thoracic mobility and that athletic separation, because we need that athletic separation in all of our whether you're throwing or hitting. So I just showed a couple quick things. If coaches were going to bring anything back to their teams, just bring one of these drills, because just bringing one drill that helps to prime the nervous system in a place of safety and of efficiency, it benefits greatly the health of the player and their performance as well. So hopefully you guys are taking just one, and then we'll build on that, go from there.
Chase, I need more. We do catching practice every Tuesday, and he's a sophomore. He can swing it and he can catch, but his hips, he doesn't have any mobility in his hips. He can barely get into a squat deep enough to be an effective catcher. And after practice, he was like, "Coach, do you have any drills that I can do to kind of increase my flexibility in my hips?" And the first person I thought about was you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, catchers are actually my favorite because they come in so tight and in so much pain. And then I work with them and they're like, holy shit, I can't believe my body feels like butter. Like, I can't believe I can get into this squat and feel good in it and move. And their efficiency behind the plate is just really good. So, yeah, send them my way. I'm happy to send things. I also have a hip mobility little routine that they can do. But really, I don't know the guy. So, you really have to, like, you can't guess, you have to assess. But
Yeah.
he's probably got some misalignment with the pelvis, so it's keeping him tight. And so if the nervous system and things are out of alignment, keeping him tight, it's actually hurting him to get into those positions and forcing himself to get into it. So happy to help. Catcher, yeah, if you're a parent or coach of a catcher, this kind of stuff really, really helps.
So, Tracy, you should have pro scouts just follow you around. They would be your greatest spokesperson ever, just because we don't have a scout on our thing, but we should all look at how we talk about players, because to Kevin's point, like, that happens all the time with catchers and infielders. And I don't think kids realize that they actually eliminate themselves for certain positions on the field just based on their inability to move and to be an inefficient mover. And scouts are the ones, like, that's the first thing they write, too tight, no flexibility, lacks mobility, and they just eliminate themselves. So I think kids spend way too much time taking extra swings in the cage and forget about taking care of their body. So I still do one of the stretches. So you got one into me. So thanks.
Okay, which one is it?
The forearms on the wall.
Oh yeah, that one. That video went viral. I forgot I showed that one. That one is all of my guys do it. So I'm gonna add a fourth one in here. I forgot. It is. So if somebody dumbed this down and it's a terrible explanation and I don't like it at all, but I'm gonna share it here to at least give you the visual. It's kind of like you're doing a plank against a wall, but you put your knees into the wall. There's so much more cueing into it. But if you kind of do that and reach your knees into the wall and you press your forearms into the wall as you inhale, that is repositioning your rib cage to then get your diaphragm into a relaxed state. So then your nervous system isn't freaking out. But then when you breathe into your back ribs, like, you can't not breathe into your back ribs when you do that. But if you're rounded and pressing, it opens up that space. And then the rotation, you're like, whoa, where did that come from? Did you feel a difference now that you do it?
I do. I feel much better. I feel a little bit looser. So I sit in a chair too much. So maybe that's part of it. And I feel like I'm always hunched with terrible posture. So I don't know. I feel better about myself because I do a stretch in the morning. Maybe I should add a couple more.
Boom. Maybe, we'll work on 2 next year.
Yeah.
Well,
There you go. New goal.
well, I think what's important about that, and this came from when you were on the show, Tracy. I know as a coach, I'm moving away from static and dynamic stretching and moving more towards mobility exercises to get my players going. And I think it's something that, again, we learned from you, and I think that it's something that all coaches should start to at least look into. I'm not saying that everybody has to adopt it, but to me, it just makes sense because, again, I've always been a big proponent, like in terms of like, teaching players mechanically, okay, that we need to learn to get their bodies to move efficiently and then work with how their body naturally moves when we're training them. So I think that this is really important for people to understand. Anybody else have anything on that?
Look, it's so, and Blake flirted with it. He's talking pro scouts, but from a college perspective, we've got 1,200 kids in stars, 300 are showcase level. And if I had a nickel for every time, a coach just said, yeah, he's just not a really good mover. Like it's actually, there's dozens upon dozens college coaches. And it's one of those things, parents think it's like, is it because of his arm velocity? Is it because of his 60-yard dash? Is it?
Right.
And it's like one of those things, it's like, as you guys can appreciate for, all of our buddies who are college coaches, it's an art and a science. And the science is easy. Any dope can do that. Any dope can compare someone's metrics and spin rates. The art of it is like looking at them. There's obviously some subjectivity in it, but just looking at them though. But that said, us that watch, like just pitchers arm, you can tell if a kid's arm moves fast in general. Well, you don't need to know his arm velocity. Same thing. You can look at a kid and tell he's stiff as like an infielder and be like, yeah, he's not a good mover. Or even when he swings, he's not a good mover. And then you try to peel back that onion and sure, they're really easy out, sort of like Kevin just said for his catcher, like, well, as parents, what do I need to do? Well, yeah, find Tracy or someone like Tracy, and that's where nothing else.
What are you talking about, Mark?
Find Tracy, period. But yeah, the point is like mobility. I think it's super huge, Jimmy. It'll make you perform better. Clearly, I'm speaking to the choir, but it would be aside from like the mental game, like the sixth tool, or mobility itself is a tool. Like being a good mover is a big freaking deal if you're trying to get recruited to college. Like you have to be a good mover. Now, if somehow you're stiff as shit and you still hit 12 home runs and 18 doubles, sure, they're going to take a chance on you. And the reason they're going to do it is they're like, we'll turn that guy into a good mover. Like we'll work with him in college. But otherwise, you want to increase one of your respective tools. Just look fluid out there. Look like you can move, whether you're swinging, pitching, work in the infield. Like being a good mover is a big deal, man, for sure.
And pitchers.
I'm gonna go layer deeper here. Oops, sorry, Blake.
Pitchers matter. Like I think we forget about pitchers needing to move down the mound. Like we always put the worst mover on the mound because he's got a good arm or something. And that's the one that gets defined the most. Like bad mover, stiff, all those things are always assigned to the pitcher. So.
One of the things that I wanted to say is, and I agree with that. I'm going to go a layer deeper that I feel like people aren't talking about. A lot of the time, stiff movers have a lot of stuff going on in their lives or have happened to them. There's a book called The Body Keeps a Score, where it's known that trauma is held in the body. And it's things that are tight are also energetic. So something that people aren't looking at, well, mental skills coaching and visualization and meditation is fantastic. A lot of these kids have been under so much stress. So what keeps these kids tight is stuff that might have happened a while ago, stress going on at home, issues with their parents or whatever. And that actually your nervous system is in that protect mode. And it keeps kids tense. So what I've been doing with my private big league clients is we don't just do movement. And it's not just what we do is not just 3 drills. It is a deep progression of working from ground zero all the way up to fluid movement where there's no energy leaks and the transitional movements and flow. But we also work on the safety, like the emotional, spiritual safety. Like guys are doing tapping. So I train them in that. I introduce them to different types of meditation and like weird, some people might call them like weird woo-woo drills, but where we can allow trauma to release in the body so people feel safe not only within their own body and the structure and the physiological part of it, but also the emotional, spiritual, like childlike part of us. Because even kids have their inner child. Coaches, we have our inner child. A lot of the aggression that you see from the parents and the coaches are all from like childhood trauma. It doesn't have to be like serious trauma, but like we could have had the most idyllic childhood ever, but there's still shit that went on and still things that we all need to grow from. So if we can also have compassion for these kids who are taking on so much at such an earlier age than we had to deal with, that is a part of kind of like why there's tightness. And when you, I just had a college, or not a college, he's a high school kid, he's a senior in high school. He happens to be local, and I've been working with him for a couple years. And he came in tight as shit. And we did the mobility stuff, and it was great. But then started to work with him on just like softening, like it's okay and safe, and releasing some of the stuff that he's gone through and the stressors. And this kid is moving fantastic now. And he's on radars of, you know, elite coaches and colleges and whatnot. So I think that's something that's often overlooked. If you've got a tight mover, it's not just about the drills and the mobility. It goes a lot deeper than that.
Tracy, I'm glad you teed this up because separate from mobility and someone being stiff, at the beginning of each season, for when I put on my Stars hat, we do a coaches clinic for all of our new coaches. It's a Zoom session. It's informational, nothing to do with skills. But one of my slides, a nine slide deck, not very big, but is connections and how do you connect with your players? And keep in mind, I could be speaking to someone who's coaching Showcase that we just hired to coach 17U, but I could be speaking to, you know, a 10-year-old dad, mom. But my point is, the slide just says connections, like how do you connect with your players? And I sort of start to tease it a little bit with how I can get the most out of my high school players by connecting with them. It's easier for me, 6 days a week. I get to spend a lot of time with them. But even at that youth level, my whole point to them is right where some of them are a little guarded and will say, well, yeah, little Jimmy doesn't want to be here, or little Jimmy doesn't listen. And it's like, little Jimmy, there's a chance you don't know where he looks just like everyone else walking through the gate. He's wearing the same thing. You don't know the environment little Jimmy just came from. And I don't ask any of them, you know, to have psychological degrees or be sociologists or therapists. I just ask for them, you know, to just think just for a little bit that he could have just came out of a very toxic environment at the house. Maybe somebody died. Maybe there was a fight. Maybe he watched a fight. Maybe someone died and he watched a fight at the same, like all the things that happen. So from an out, if you want to get a lot out of that kid, how about give him a little bit of grace, number one, and then take that challenge throughout that year. Instead of saying he's a little awkward, he doesn't want to be here, maybe just figure out, and you don't have to do it in that one practice, your first one, but you got an 8-week season. Figure out, my challenge to you is to figure out, can you connect with that one kid that you think is just a little different and doesn't want to be there? Because maybe you'll find out he does want to be there. You got to just, you know, motivate him a little bit differently. You know, not everyone's going to be coached or trained the same. And that's my long diatribe, like takeaway. I know at the high school level, there's zero chance. You know, I treat everybody, you know, fair, but not equal. I'll tell you that. I don't do that. Like everyone needs to be treated a little bit. And I have the benefit of knowing, like I said, I know a lot about all my high school players. So I can get in there. It's hard for the youth coaches, but I just tell them just to think about that. And again, if nothing else, stealing from you, I think you said earlier, like have a little grace when you're thinking about why it looks like he's not listening to you during, let alone just the obvious, like, do you have any clue if he's ADD? Do you have any clue if he's ADHD? Did you know his parents just got separated? Did you know that he's living with his grandpa? Like, so I like that. You could get a lot more out of somebody if you can appreciate their background and where they're coming from, whether it's mobility or just like listening, digesting, learning.
Yeah,
it's funny, Mark. I had 2 kids come in for some early work earlier this week, and it's 2 kids, and they go to a trainer together, and I'm asking them about stuff that the trainer's telling them, and they're equal level players, and it's funny. Like I know the trainer, and I know how he he addresses kids and he's pretty rough on kids and he talks down to you as a sense of motivation. And I asked one of the kids, I was like, does he talk to him like that? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, how does he handle it? Because I know the kid that he's talking down to, he can't handle it. Like he's not
Yeah.
a kid that needs that type of coaching. And I went on to say like I can't coach him like I coach you. And so like I can say certain stuff to you, I can't say certain stuff to him because I know that it's going to affect him more emotionally. He's going to shut down versus it's going to motivate you to want you to get better. And so like and I went on to say like y'all your whole age group is like that. They're a group of juniors. They're 27s, and I'm just like your whole team is like that. So like I have to address each and every one of you guys individually and figure out a way to motivate you. And the kid, they were looking at me like puppy dogs getting ready to get fed, but it's like I think they kind of understood what I was saying and whatnot. And like I think more coaches should invest in that connection, and you'll get more out of kids, and hopefully open up that mobility for them in the hips as well.
Yeah.
But
And Mark,
I will say that, you guys were talking about how you treat everyone different. And yes, as a coach, you have to do that. But I guarantee you that all of your players know that you care about them, regardless of how you treat them. Because if you don't let them know that you care about them, and I always use the word love, I know that's hard for some coaches to do, but my players know I love them and I care about them. Now, again, I treat them all differently, but that one thing is consistent.
I tell people this all the time. I think it's something nobody really even, and it adds perspective to it. And I only use it to add perspective. The number one legal thing we have to deal with at our facilities is our centers around domestic. And it's a lot of times a dad wanting to see their son play and they've been cut out of the family and the wife doesn't want, the ex-wife doesn't want them around their kid or things like that. And we have to deal with those calls all the time. And now you think about a 12-year-old having to deal with that and how many people actually know what's going on in that kid's life. So
yeah. That's an interesting take that I've never heard before, and yeah, I guess that's a real thing, I imagine.
And so sad, but just the fact that you're getting those calls gives you the perspective, and now everybody listening here knows that hey, the kids are carrying a lot. They may seem like they're resilient, but I also think, Kevin, you mentioned that there's some coaches, like talk down to the kids. In my opinion, and everything that I do and all that I'm trained in, I don't think anybody is motivated by getting spoken down to in a condescending way. I think that is like old coaching. So if you are listening and there's a coach or a parent or whatever that speaks down to it, there is not a single person who is motivated by the negative, the condescension at all. So there's better ways, there's healthier ways, there's shit sandwiches, like say something great, say the shitty stuff, and then end it off with something that's positive. And one of the things that I found so impactful with teams is I do these half-day clinics with people where it's just like a connection day because kids aren't, I don't know about your kids, but kids aren't listening to the stuff that their parents are saying, but they are as much as they are listening to what the coaches are saying. And so if you can do it in a group, so it's like, let's learn a couple tools, let's connect in some ways. And we're all going in there kind of vulnerably like, what the heck is this? But if we do it for kids and we do it for coaches as well, where it's like, oh, all these kids kind of came together. This is a terrible analogy, but like back in college when everybody went out and partied and just drank and like shit happened, right? You're like, oh my God, that night. Everybody else is like, all those people who were there that night are bonded the next day because you went through this ridiculous thing. And I'm using that in a positive thing. But if people go through a traumatic event together, you're instantly connected. Well, when parents and coaches and kids independently share an experience of just like going within, it's not even mental skills. It's just like taking the time to like look at you. When does any player go in and like have the opportunity to be seen as who they are, as the kid that they are? They're hiding so much. So when we do these little clinics, it gives us the opportunity for the kid to feel seen, the kid to start feeling safe, but then the team comes together in a bonded way that's really beautiful, and it affects performance. and they're motivated together because then kids start to share like, yeah, my parents just got divorced and like that really sucks. It's hard going from house to house. Or like with domestic violence stuff, Blake was saying like, yeah, like I saw my dad beat up my mom, or my grandmother just died, or like I'm getting bullied in school. Like kids start to open up. And I'm going to get choked up saying this because it's so impactful. Just like having a kid to feel seen and heard is one of the best things anybody could ever do to help them in their life. But then also, we're talking about team and baseball here for the team environment as well.
Well, I'm glad that, we talked about that because, again, it's something that people should understand that coaches have to deal with. That's an everyday occurrence for coaches, and it's just another aspect that we as coaches have to we have to educate ourselves about it, and we have to make ourselves better about it so that we handle it the right way so that the kids don't get hurt. So it's important. So I'm going to have to just go with one more question. There was so much more I wanted to get to, but maybe we'll do another show. I don't know. We'll do something. From all of you, one at a time. And again, we'll start from top bottom. So Kevin, Mark, Tracy, Blake. What message do you want every, I'll say, coach and parent out there involved in youth baseball? What message do you want them to hear?
Wow, that's a good question. Just let kids be kids. Let them have fun. Let them be who they want to be. They'll let you know if they love what you have them involved in. I have a son that was pretty good. He wound up getting a Division I scholarship. I always say that he grew up with his mother's genes, and I had to teach him how to do everything. And he turned out to be a really, really, really good baseball player, and he's very intelligent young man. And he played saxophone. He was one of the best kids in the city in chess. Right now, he loves video games, and he's probably the best player, whatever game he's playing in the state, in the video game that he's playing. And I was just there for more support. And I encourage parents, don't force it on kids because eventually they're gonna want to quit. And they'll let you know if they love it or not. And so each year, my son, we signed him up for baseball. I said, before the season started, I would always ask him, like, you sure you want to do this? Because once we start, you can't quit. And so we're going to finish the season. And pretty much everything that we signed him up for, we did. And there were things he was like, yeah, I don't want to do that anymore. But he kept doing baseball. He kept doing baseball. He kept doing baseball. And the older he got, the more disciplined, I was with him, and the more work that we wound up doing that. And because that's what you have to do to be a great player. And it's turned out to impact him off the field now that he's not playing baseball anymore. That same work ethic, I see him showing in the work that he does now, whatever he's doing, or whether it's the video game, whether it's him getting up and going to work at 6 o'clock every single morning. I don't have to knock on his door and make sure that he's doing anything that he's not supposed to be doing. He's making great decisions, and just let them be themselves. And if they're meant to play in the major leagues, they'll get there. If they're meant to be Division I players, they'll get there. If they're meant to just go to college and play baseball, they'll get there. There's NAIA, there's junior college, there's D1, D2, D3. There's a place for everybody that wants to go to college and play. But if they don't want to go to college and play, just let them be who they are. It's a different age of. I know when I grew up, you went to high school, you graduated high school, you went to college, and kids are exposed to so much more these days because of social media, because of the internet, and they see other people doing things and making themselves successful outside of just sports and youth sports, but just kind of allow your child to learn the discipline of life from the sport that you're playing, be encouraging to them, support them in all the decisions that they make, and it'll translate to them for the rest of their lives.
You're up, Mark.
Yeah, so I'd say and sort of like Kevin, I had kids myself. My daughter was in the SEC. My son was a D1 shortstop, never sat, then went into college, coached college. So So I'd say they've been successful. So aside from my success and prowess as a high school coach or showcase coach, I did it back in the day with my kids, doing it now. And parents should focus on getting your children in an environment where they'll develop and have a good experience, or just fun. I mean, the word F and fun, like fun's actually not a bad thing. Make sure they have fun and a good experience. I think a lot of people, hop teams, chase wins. And I'll tell you this, so this is when wins were, I knew back in the day wins shouldn't be driving everything, but a win a district championship, what do you think happens after that? Like, it's kind of rhetorical. Like, everyone's like, well, you got to win again or you win a region. Okay, well, we win the district 7 times, you win the region 3 times. What happens then? Keep winning the region, we got to win states. Well, we won state. So now I'm in this weird hamster wheel, right? Where someone's like, well, what's next? I guess you have to win states again, but I know the end of the book. Like, it doesn't have to matter, because if we win states again, apparently we're supposed to win again. So for us, I'm going to develop players along the way. They're going to have a kick-ass fun time. I am a little old school in practices, believe it or not. So I can be tough. I don't belittle anyone. To Tracy's point, so don't shake your finger at me. But yeah, it's a very demanding environment in our practices. Make kids work, problem solve, make them work together. Try to extrapolate it all into the regular youth level too. But at the end of the day, for us, I've stolen and blurred. It's really incestuous for me between Star Showcase and high school. Is want all of our players develop and get better. If they do that, that's a huge win. And if they're having fun, it's ridiculous that it's even better. And it's surprising how many teams actually end up winning when you find out that, people use the word culture. I'll tell you what, there's not too many teams that have good culture that don't have fun. And it can be different in different environments. You look at the college level. I think I said this at our summit, like UVA and Tennessee look way different. Their dugouts, I know players, and they're having fun in both places. It's different levels of fun, right? Depends on where you want to go for fit, but those places have fun. So I just wonder, how could a 10U or 12U coach not actually prioritize in a practice plan to say, at the beginning of today's practice, we're going to do X to have fun, or end of practice, we're going to have carve some time to have fun along the way while you're developing those kids.
Go ahead, Tracy.
Oh, you guys, so I was taking notes here because I didn't want to forget what I wanted to say. I so echo what both of you had said. Kevin, all of that. I was like, yes, yes, yes. So all of what Kevin and what Mark said. And to just add on that, I would say, I think what we're doing now, there's too much too soon. If we give kids all of these big things happening so young, what happens? It's like you have to earn the stuff in college, like the championships and whatnot. And you do these walkout songs and these big, I don't know, just big things. Why do we have to give it to these kids so young? I feel like we're chasing these dopamine hits and these dopamine highs over and over and over again. And it's really detrimental on kids. We should, back in the day, we played with toy cars. They were rocks. Now we've got these fancy remote control cars. And it's what can we do that's bigger and better? Same thing in sports. There's too much too soon. It's okay to not join all of the tournaments all of the time. Maybe one, and I know we're in a community here where we make money, or a lot of people here make money out of tournaments. But as parents, there's always going to be another tournament that you can sign your kid up for. There's always going to be another sport, which leads me to my next point is multi-sport athletes. Do not, under any circumstance, specialize in this sport at an early age. And research is showing 13 is the age, but for me, it would be 15 or college. Some of my MLB players didn't specialize in baseball until their junior year of college. One guy actually didn't start pitching till the junior year in college and went on to play with the Red Sox. So multi-sport athletes, and it doesn't mean multiple sports in the same season. This is my next point. One sport per season, because a kid gets burnt out. We are so overloading the kid's schedule with practices and stuff going on every single day. They don't have the opportunity to decompress. We as adults, we need to decompress. Think about the kids with still developing brains and all of that. So mine is one sport per season. Give kids a couple days off. I'm at 4 days a week. If there's practices, if a coach sets a practice or games more than 4 days a week, I'm sorry, coach. I tell them ahead of time, they're not coming. I literally speak on international stages of this shit. sorry, like I could be that mom, but I'm going to be that mom because we need to speak up and protect our kids. The 3 days that they have off, let them play with their friends. If they want to keep playing baseball, go do pickup baseball or basketball in the yard or soccer or whatever. So I don't sign my kids up for more than one season, one sport per season. Nobody's specializing. And then, so I have like give kids a break and let them play with their friends. But then also the last one is integrate proper movement. Just start it at an early age. Like maybe don't do the catching lesson or the hitting lesson or the pitching lesson or whatever it is, and just like figure out how to be a healthy mover because that is going to benefit their kid in their mechanics on the field and their health, number one, hands down.
Okay, Blake, land this plane.
Well, I agree with everything everybody said except for one thing Tracy said. I still think we should play tournaments. But
not all the time. That sounds like but just like might work up to it.
Yeah, maybe we can work into it. No, I mean to echo what she's saying. I mean, ultimately, what she's saying is don't be in a hurry to do everything right away. Don't. We want baseball players and baseball fans at 25, 22, 23. 9-year-olds don't need to be playing more games than a professional athlete or a collegiate athlete. It's just not a good fit. So I do believe in that, and I don't disagree with the message. I just had to poke fun at tournaments. But overall, for me, the one thing I would tell you as a parent and probably living a little bit vicariously through or looking back on my own life with my son. So I always use this like adversity and failure in this game. The reason we all love baseball is it teaches those life lessons. Don't try and shield your kid from those adversity and those failures. But baseball's meant to teach them those lessons. I think as parents, we're all in a hurry to, give our kids everything and make the world the best place it could be, and shield them from anything bad. They're going to strike out. It's okay. Let them learn how to handle that failure. Put them in situations where they are going to fail, challenge them, and then love them after they fail and give them the tools to, handle the failure, as opposed to trying to take it away from them. And speaking personally, my son was a starting shortstop for 4 years in high school, walked in day one, never, he got to college and he found out he wasn't the best player. And it was hard for him to learn how to deal with it. And he just didn't have the tools or necessary to handle that. We never stopped to think about how to make sure that he had the tools to handle it. And so that's my personal kind of story. So I would just challenge parents to put their kids in opportunities to fail and give them the resources to handle the failures. On the multi-sport, I hear so many times, hey, we need to not let our kid, our kid has to focus on baseball or has to focus on football or has to focus on soccer or whatever. There are other ways. You don't have to be a travel sport athlete to be a multi-sport athlete. I think, Mark, you could incorporate basketball into your practices. You could let them play intramurals. Like there's other ways to incorporate other sports that it's not travel. It's not at the expense. It's not with the high school coach. It's not on the Sunday league. Football same way. I mean, with all the flag football stuff going on now, they don't have to play at a competitive travel level in every sport. They can, in a season, they can go play intramural basketball until they're all the way through college. That is still a multi-sport. I think we've put this multi-sport and assume that it means I'm a varsity athlete. You do not have to be a varsity athlete in every sport. You can be a varsity athlete in one sport and still play 4 sports. So whenever I hear that, I always want to re-echo that we don't always have to, we always look at these guys like they have to be to be considered a multi-sport, they have to be a varsity player. And I can't disagree with that more. I think kids need to, they can play basketball in their backyard. They can play football in their backyard. And if they get hurt at 15, guess what? It's okay. Their career is not over. Professional athletes are getting hurt all the time and coming back. The world will not end. Again, it's a failure. It's give them the tools to handle it and give them the resources to rehab and get back. So don't live your life in fear of what's going to happen. I had the privilege of being around Max Clark at a very young age, coached him before he was who he is. That kid played football his senior year with, I think his signing bonus was around $7 million. He played football with $7 million on the line. and when you asked him about it, he said, I don't care. This is my last year to play football. I really want to play football. Had Colson Montgomery, another kid that is playing for the White Sox now. And we all have these stories, but that kid played football, basketball, and baseball. And if you asked him, I sat in a dugout and I listened to a pro scout ask him, hey, when are you going to hit this winter? He goes, I don't hit this winter. He goes, what do you mean? He goes, I'm a basketball player. I play basketball in the winter. So when do you pick up a bat? I'll pick it up, when basketball's over. And he went in the first round. I mean, I know that's an exception to the rule and everything else, but not everybody's built the same. So let your kid live his own journey, and don't compare him to everybody else on the field, because there's not one person that's the exact same as him.
So I think what it comes down to is if I had to sum up everything that everybody just said, is teach your player how to navigate the bumpy, rocky road that's in front of them. Don't pave it for them, okay? And I think that that's a powerful message that everybody should understand. And, I really want to thank everybody, because what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get people to understand, like, what we do at these summits. And this is a snapshot of what happens there. And one of the biggest things that I talk about all the time is relationships. And, you guys, all of the people that I've met at these summits and have developed relationships with has only made me a better person and a better coach. So I want to thank you guys for being a friend, and I really appreciate all of you.
Thanks for having us. It's been great.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Great. Awesome.
Thank you for organizing.
So that's going to wrap up round 2 of our Youth Baseball Summit shows, and we got one more coming up. In the beginning, I said that this was going to be a good show, and I truly believe it lived up to that expectation. I mean, they're just all great baseball minds with good perspectives on what we're trying to do, how we're trying to, make this baseball world better. Kevin Coe with the Reds Youth Academy, with many, many years of coaching experience in developing young players. Mark Wright, a very successful high school coach and an academy owner. Tracy Tanguay, I mean, you all know about Tracy, how she has a passion for helping players to be able to move the right way, to be mobile, and also the nervous system. She talks about the nervous system and how much we need to take care of that to put players in the right spot so that it could be successful. Blake runs bullpen tournaments. He's, one of the tournament directors that we want that input from him. We don't want to be adversaries. We want to do this together. We want to make sure that we're all working towards that common goal of what can make the player better. So, and also, I also hope you like the part about the umpires, because I know I did. I enjoyed that. I thought it was a very big part of what we talked about on this episode, and there was just a lot of good stuff there. And again, I can't say it any more than I already do. Please don't beat up on the umpires. Shake their hand, give them a bottle of water, help them out a little bit. And look, when they make a bad call, just look the other way. It's not that big a deal. I mean, I can tell you that I have had a million bad calls against me. I've had parents yell out to me, hey, coach, did he blow that call? And I'm looking, I say, yeah, he did, but let's move on. That's all it takes. Take a breath. Relax. But anyway, that's enough about me ranting about umpires. So, listen, make sure you stay tuned. We have one more Youth Summit episode coming up. And then we have another thing in the works also that's going to be coming up soon that I think everybody will appreciate. But I'm not going to take the wrapper off of that yet. I'm going to keep that as a little teaser. But I'll be announcing what we're going to be doing very soon. So, if you enjoyed today's show, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Visit the website at thectbshow.net. Listen to your favorite episodes and please leave us a review. You can also reach out to the show on social media, X, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and get this, the old man has finally got us on TikTok. keeps me young. And if you have any questions or topics you'd like me to cover, please drop us an email at clearingthebases@gmail.com. Your feedback helps us bring you the best content and reach more people in the baseball community just like you. And also, let me know if you'd like to be a guest. Until then, coaches and players, keep practicing, stay positive, and remember, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Thanks, everyone, and I'll see you on the next one.